Good morning, I'm Adam Sexton. For the last 8 years, Frank Edelblut has served as the Commissioner of Education. In that time, he has overseen changes large and small in New Hampshire schools and never hesitated to lead the charge on hot-button issues. He'll be leaving office at the end of this school year, and he is our guest this morning on Close Up. Commissioner, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here, Adam. We've done this a few times.
I know, right? Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And hopefully we can continue. We'll see in what capacity. But almost a decade at the forefront of education in New Hampshire. Of all the changes made, what do you think is going to make the biggest impact long-term on New Hampshire education?
Yes, so that's a really tough question to answer because there's been so many impactful things over these last 8 years. Certainly the most visible change is the emphasis that we have put on parental options, parental choice in the state. You know, I am a staunch supporter of families and children and making sure that students are able to get the right educational pathway for them so they can be successful. And so, of course, we've got programs like Learn Everywhere. We've got a robust charter school program set up in the state now. We've got open enrollment schools in the state of New Hampshire now. And then really the one that attracts the most attention is our education freedom accounts, which really empowers families to be able to make education choices that fit the needs of their children so that their children can be successful. And what's really important about these programs is not just that we have so many options that we've now started up here in the state of New Hampshire, but that those options are available as a child grows, right? Because what might be right for that child when they're, 8 years old and in second grade might not be what they need when they're 12 or when they're 15 or 16. And so what we hope really is that we've created a very dynamic system that allows parents to have a very strong voice in the pathways for their children.
And more on EFAs in a moment. We were just talking about this, though. There are so many things that just don't make headlines that are consequential. Talk to us about some of these things that are under the radar, but you think are going to make a huge long-term impact.
Yeah, so some of the things I'm particularly proud about is, that again, haven't attracted quite as much attention necessarily. So for example, people don't necessarily see it because it's not visible, but we have consistently been investing in the safety of our schools. And I have been a strong advocate all along. This is, we are not going to have a reactive strategy, which means that something bad happens and then we say, now we have to do something. Instead, over the years as commissioner, we've invested over $50 million in the safety of our schools. I regularly am advocating at the legislature, let's continue to invest in this, right? So it cannot be a reaction. It needs to be an ongoing investment, and we have done that consistently. We have implemented systems in the state that have just made both our educators, our education administrators, our families, our community members' lives better and more efficient. I think of iPlatform as one of my favorite implementations. This was a tool that I envisioned when I first got here, and I said, really what I want is technology is as if you're going car shopping. You know how like when you go to buy a car, you can check out a model and you can click, hey, compare this model to this model. So we've got that technology available on the state platform through iPlatform is what we call it. We've got iGrant in New Hampshire, and we're unique across the country. In New Hampshire, under iGrant, you can look up today and you can see all the federal funds coming into the state, what's been allocated to the district, where they're spending that money, and it's updated every Wednesday. So you can see real time what's going on there. People don't know, in February, we introduced and implemented a statewide student information system. And I love that implementation went so well, nobody even knew it happened, which is the best kind of an implementation, right? And that system alone is going to save literally man years of time for school personnel and the state in terms of reconciling student data. So just really driving a lot of that efficiency into the system so that students can and educators can be focused on the mission at hand and not so focused on just the administrative tasks.
Yeah. On education freedom accounts, the move in the legislature right now is to universal access. Critics have said that this is going to have costs skyrocket. As both an advocate for school choice and a fiscal conservative, do you have any concerns that this could be a budget buster if the uptake is rapid?
Yeah, so I'm not worried about that. And what I really think is important and what is really not understood more broadly is that education freedom accounts are costing the taxpayers about $5,000 per student, whereas a student that is going to one of my traditional public schools is costing over $22,000 a student. And even if you look at my charter schools are operating at about $9,000 per student. And so really, the difficulty that we have in our traditional public schools, and we've just recently come through kind of the budget season, I refer to it as, the real difficulty is that oftentimes we say, well, we're going to do everything we did last year, but we want to try and do it for less money, which is really kind of an impossibility. What we really need to do is to create these opportunities and these options so that schools have the opportunity to try and do something different. And we've seen that in the state of New Hampshire. We saw that with Prospect Mountain coming with an open enrollment school. We saw recently some Lakes Region high schools who've created a kind of a consortium, excuse me, a consortium that allows students to move between those high schools. And that's really, if there's anything that I've been trying to do, and I've even penned op-eds to this effect, what we want is really that dynamism to infuse into our public schools so that they can be more responsive to the families, more responsive to the needs of the students, and it really creates a better working environment for our educators across the state. I'm going to hit on one other thing too, which is interesting. Across the country, we've heard of teacher shortages, and it's just not happening. In New Hampshire, for these 8 years, we have created a variety of pathways for individuals to become educators in the state of New Hampshire. And as a result, we've mostly missed that teacher shortage. In the last 3 years, we have certified more educators than we've ever certified in the history of the state. And part of the way we did that was by leaning in on one of our strengths, which is we've got a growing aging population. These are individuals who retire, but retirement's not the same as it was, 50 years ago. They don't want to golf for 5 days a week, and so you've got this natural resource in New Hampshire that is sitting on the sideline, which is brain power. These folks are retiring, and they don't want to play golf 5 days a week, but they might be happy to come in and teach calculus on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 11. So we need to create kind of a flexible, dynamic working environment that really allows us to tap into that vast resource, and so that these folks can continue to contribute to our state and our students.
Yeah, it's another debate in the legislature as well. I'm interested in the federal-state interplay. Obviously, there's discussion at the federal level of abolishing the Department of Education. Democrats were saying essentially this could be, $500 million at stake. But if that money does become a block grant that moves to the states, how much money could New Hampshire end up receiving under that model?
Yeah, so there is tons of conversation about the federal government and what's going to happen down there. And what I would encourage everybody to pay attention to is you have to continue to build relationships. It's interesting that the federal government, Department of Education, just recently canceled grants for every single state out of SAMHSA, except for New Hampshire. And the reason they didn't cancel New Hampshire is because when we saw the content of the grant, we called the Department of Education, we talked to them about how we were going to deploy those funds, and they were happy with our plan, gave us permission to keep going. Everybody else's grants got canceled, and I got to keep my grant. So building those relationships. And so we're going to continue to do that with the feds. And so and I hope that they do, if what we find is that the federal funds come to the state as block grants, we are well positioned to be able to deploy those funds. What you will see is in New Hampshire, we've already got formulas for allocating funds to our schools that have been approved by the legislature and are in existence right now. So we will be able to, receive those funds, and it is about $250 million. We will be able to take those funds and put them through existing formulas. So it's very predictable to the schools and the communities to know how much funding they're going to get, and they will continue to support the purposes that those funds were originated for in the first place. So I actually think that as we move forward, the opportunity to allow the states to have a greater voice and control over the education is a positive thing. And really, this is less than 10% of the funds that we spend on education in the state of New Hampshire. And we can't have, the 10% tail wagging the dog, which is our New Hampshire education system. We know what's best for our children. We know what's best for our families. We know what's best for our educators. And we need to help to strengthen that and not be responsive to, some faraway overlord.
As you prepare to step away as commissioner, what's next for Frank Edelblut?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to finish out this job well. I'm obviously in holdover status, and hopefully the governor is moving forward in terms of finding a replacement. And then, I don't know what my next step is going to be, what my next chapter will be. What I do know is that I love New Hampshire. I have served New Hampshire, and I will continue to serve in some capacity.
When you mentioned that, a lot of people are interested in seeing you run for U.S. Senate. Is that something that's on the table?
Yeah, so I have always articulated that I'm very centric about New Hampshire. I really love my state, and I want to continue to contribute to the state. Washington, again, is somewhat distant for me, so I love the state of New Hampshire, and I'm going to try and find ways to contribute here in New Hampshire.
All right, Frank Edelblut, Commissioner of Education. Keep us posted on what comes next.
Sounds good. Thank you, Adam.
Okay, and we'll be right back with Secretary of State David Scanlon. Stay with us.